Last week, the City of London was stunned by the shocking Islamist terrorist attack carried out by the Muslim convert Khalid Masood, who drove his 4x4 into pedestrians walking on Westminster Bridge. He killed 4 people with his car and injured another 50. He then stabbed police officer Keith Palmer to death within the compound of the Houses of Parliament. This was the first Islamic-inspired terror attack to succeed in Britain since the dreadful London bombings of the 7th of July 2005. This is despite reports of over 50 failed terror attempts in the UK that were prevented by the excellent work of our security services. The latest London terror attack used a combination of a vehicle and a knife as a weapon. This style of terrorism is the first of its kind in the UK, but sadly something that is very familiar to Israel, as for the last few years this has been a common tactic used by Palestinian terrorists. ISIS also adopted this terror tactic in Nice in France last July, when an Islamist terrorist hijacked a lorry and ploughed it into a crowd of pedestrians on the promenade who were enjoying the Bastille celebrations. He murdered 84 people and injured another 434 that day. This tactic was used again by 26-year-old Tunisian Islamist terrorist in Berlin on the 19th of December 2016 when he drove a truck into a Christmas market, killing 12 people and injuring 50 others. This was the worst Islamist terrorist attack in Germany to date. On the 8th of January 2017, an Arab-Israeli terrorist inspired by ISIS carried out a similar attack by driving a truck into a group of young Israeli soldiers, killing 4 and injuring 15. The common theme to these terror attacks is that the perpetrators have all been radicalized online by ISIS. It's been widely reported by the mainstream media that the giant internet companies such as Google and social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and WhatsApp are being used by Islamic terrorists to indoctrinate young, impressionable Muslims using propaganda to incite murder and glorify terrorism. The birth of the internet in the mid-1990s ushered in a new digital age that's transformed our lives, giving us immediate access to information on our computers, tablets, and smartphones, and the technology to keep in touch with family and friends internationally, making the world a smaller and more accessible place. The dark side of this technological advancement is that it's now being used against the Western world by terrorists who desire to see our destruction. In the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers in New York and the war in Iraq in 2003, terrorists have used media and the internet as a strategic weapon. After the American, British, and coalition forces removed Saddam Hussein and his sons from power in Iraq in 2003, Islamic terrorists, both Sunni and Shia, turned Iraq into a full-scale insurgency against the Western forces and civilians that were stationed there. The Sunni terrorist organization Al-Qaeda in Iraq, led by the notorious Abu Musab al-Zakari, that later became ISIS, were the first terror group to use the power of the media and the internet to influence Western foreign policy. Terrorists belonging to Al-Qaeda in Iraq kidnapped Western hostages, paraded them in front of video cameras where they were pleading for their lives, and condemned their country's involvement in Iraq. The terrorists gave the country of their origin of the condemned hostage a week to pull their troops out of Iraq whilst demanding a large ransom. News reports began to show civilians captured by Al-Qaeda pleading for their lives on camera. This terrorism strategy resulted in people taking to the streets demanding that their governments pull their troops out of Iraq to rescue their fellow citizens and end their involvement in the conflict. In many cases, this strategy worked, but not in the case of British hostage Ken Bigley. A chilling video message was uploaded to the internet and given to news networks, showing him pleading with Prime Minister Tony Blair for his life in exchange for the release of Islamic terrorists. To win this war against terrorism, it's vital that our Western governments address the role played by the internet and social media to stop the ideology of hatred and violence. A report published by the United Nations in 2011, entitled "The Use of the Internet for Terrorism Purposes," states that terrorists use the internet for recruitment, financing, propaganda, training, incitement to commit acts of terrorism, as well as gathering and disseminating information for terrorism purposes. The Islamic State has been successful in recruiting many young, impressionable Muslim men to join the caliphate in Iraq and Syria through slick propaganda campaigns on social media. They have also encouraged teenage Muslim girls to join them and become jihadi brides. Those involved in terrorism use internet forums to communicate with each other, to spread jihadi ideology and share information on how to make bombs and other terror tactics. Because of the success of our intelligence services preventing terror attacks, we're now seeing a rise of lone wolf terrorism, which means that the internet is becoming more important to potential terrorists than ever before. In the aftermath of last week's terrorist attack in London, ISIS claimed responsibility and posted a number of YouTube recruitment videos glorifying the hideous acts of terror that brought carnage to the streets of London. Google, who own YouTube, have been severely criticised in recent days by the mainstream media and the British government for their failure to block ISIS videos. The Times reported on Monday, confirming that since the London terror attack, a number of ISIS YouTube videos have been posted online, making statements such as 5 Kafir dead in London, thousands of believers dead because of US airstrikes. Another video showed a slow-motion prisoner being shot in the head, and another was of a jihadist singing, "We'll cut off their heads with the severe blades. We shall drink the blood, so tasty and dark red." Home Secretary Amber Rudd publicly attacked the internet chat and text service WhatsApp, who is owned by Facebook, for not revealing the WhatsApp message sent by Khalid Masood minutes before he went on his murderous rampage. Rudd is furious with WhatsApp for not giving access for encrypted messages to British intelligence.
Messages you send to this chat and calls are now secured with end-to-end encryption. Tap for more info, and if you tap, it tells you you will be completely safe. Nobody will ever see. And that is what a lot of people think terrorists and others are using. Can I put it to you that that situation is now completely unacceptable?
That is my view. It is completely unacceptable. There should be no place for terrorists to hide. We need to make sure that organisations like WhatsApp, and there are plenty of others like that, don't provide a secret place for terrorists to communicate with each other. It used to be that people would steam open envelopes or just listen in on phones when they wanted to find out what people were doing legally through warrantry. But on this situation, we need to make sure that our intelligence services have the ability to get into situations like encrypted WhatsApp.
The internet has transformed every aspect of our daily lives, from the way we communicate, how we work, and how we stay in touch with family and friends. Even our entertainment is internet-based, from downloading films and music to streaming live football matches on our TV screens. We've seen that the internet is used by Islamic terrorists to spread their evil and hate-filled ideology, to undermine our Western way of life by bringing terror and fear to our cities. The billion-pound internet companies like Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp need to take responsibility for our security to ensure that their platforms are not used by terrorists. For example, the video sharing platform YouTube, watched by billions around the globe, has strict filters preventing the uploading of child pornography. So why do they allow ISIS, who are a murderous terrorist organization, to promote their evil propaganda videos? Why has Facebook allowed Palestinian incitement and the glorification of terrorism to remain on their social media platform that teaches young children how to stab and murder Israelis? It's time that these internet companies took responsibility for their actions and work hard to stop terrorist material being uploaded to their internet sites. Scripture says in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 to 13, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armour of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." We should not allow fear of terrorism to come into our hearts, but to make a godly stand against this evil through the power of prayer and intercession. We should pray for our governments and these internet companies to work together to stop these terrorists from communicating with each other, that we may halt the spread of their evil ideology. This will mean in the future that it will be much harder to radicalize terrorists like Khalid Masood, and we will no longer see terrorist attacks like the one we saw in Westminster last week.